Last Sunday Justin started for us an area of the power of the parables, looking at the parables that are found in God's Word and how it challenges us. And I want to ask you a question. Would you describe yourself as a treasure seeker? I don't know if you're a treasure seeker. I don't know if you're some of those individuals who are still looking for that lost treasure. Maybe you happen to be an individual that goes out in the backyard and hopes to find that hidden treasure in the ground to where you never have to work again. But there are individuals all around us who are treasure seekers. But you might be an individual who is not looking for the treasures, but you're sitting back, you're idle, and you're waiting for somehow the treasure to find you. Wouldn't that be great? If the treasure found you, if up and behold, you didn't have to search for it, you didn't have to labor for it, it just found you. Well, we understand, and I want to share with you through the research and some of the programs I watch on TV, I have found out there is still millions of dollars of lost, buried, hidden treasure in the world. Even here in America. So any of you that would like to go treasure hunting, please see me afterwards. I'll give you the information I have, and when you find it, all I ask is a retaining fee, a fee of 50%, okay? You do the searching, you do the finding, but I'll send you in the right direction. So we'll work that out right afterwards. But around us, we need to realize individuals are trying to find that specific treasure because it's going to give them such a great wealth, a great value. But let me also warn you about treasure hunters. Individuals who seek those hidden treasures have given up the ultimate cost, and that is the cost of their life. Many have died in pursuit of hidden treasures. Hidden somewhere out there. They go by the clues, and this clue leads them in this direction. And they begin to look and search, and they give up their ultimate life in search of that treasure, and they never find the treasure. What a waste. Many have died in search of that hidden treasure. But let me ask, in a sense, what are you searching for in your life? What is the treasure of your life that you are somehow searching for? Are you an individual who is searching for it? Are you an individual who say, well, I'm just going through the motions and I'm not going to worry about what happens. Whatever happens is going to happen, and therefore that's all I got to do. The parables found in the Bible are there to shed light on God's deeper truths of God's Word, and it begins to give us an insight. And I want to ask this and get you to where you're beginning to thinking, are you searching for the treasure in the right places? Now, by that I mean, you can be a treasure hunter, you could be searching for treasures all in the world, and you will never find it. But let me tell you something, if you search for the treasures of God, you can find them wherever you are. It's not something that is so hard for you to find, but yet we sometimes complicate the mannerism in which we find the treasure of Jesus Christ. So are you searching for the treasure in the right places? Are you searching and you're looking in the right things? Are you looking at others and saying, I want to be like them, and not looking at Christ and saying, I want to be like Jesus Christ? So we've got to begin to search, but we need to search in the right areas. There is a passage of Scripture, and matter of fact, we're going to be looking at two of them. One is found in Matthew chapter 6, beginning with verse 19 through 21. And then we're going to look at the parable in Matthew chapter 13, beginning with verse 44 through 46. So let's begin in the area of Matthew chapter 6. Turn in your Bibles to Matthew chapter 6 and begin with me down to verse 19. Now, this is what the Word of God says to us. It says you need to be a treasure seeker. You say, no, it doesn't say that. Well, listen to what it says then. Lay not up for yourselves treasures. So people, listen to me. We're treasure seekers. And we're going to seek until we find the treasure that's available for us. So it says here, lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, where thieves break through and steal. But verse 20 says, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. And then in verse 21, get this, for where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Do you understand what that is implying? We go through this life and our heart is set on certain things. And so what we want to begin to do is look at, what do you treasure? Looking at these verses in this concept of Matthew chapter 6, verse 19 through 21, it falls into two categories. The things that we treasure. Now here we go. The simplistic answer is we treasure two things. We either treasure the earthly things, isn't that what it says here? Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth. That is, don't try to accumulate and accumulate and accumulate the things on the earth. What's wrong with that? So we look at the earthly things and we begin to realize that acquiring earthly things does not last. It is fading away. Everything that you gain. I was watching one article a while back in regards to somebody that had hid his paper money years and years and years and years ago in a suitcase along the shoreline, and how the water had come in and literally the water had deteriorated all the money. And later on somebody found it, but it was all deteriorated. It was worthless. There was not enough to recognize and to be of any value other than saying, I found the money that this person had lost. But it was worthless. You see, the Bible conveys to us that you and I as individuals, we need to understand that everything that we acquire in this lifetime here on the earth is going to be left behind. You will not have the ability to take these things, these monetary things. You cannot take your house, you cannot take your boat, you cannot take your wealth with you into the presence of heaven. That is not what we do. So what it begins to say is, where is your treasure? What do you treasure? Do you treasure? Are you just motivated by making more and more and more and more? Now there are a lot of people who are motivated by earthly things. But there is a greater aspect of the treasure that is found written in the Word of God. It says in verse 20 that we are to have treasure in heavenly things. Now people, let me tell you something. Heavenly things are greater than earthly things. You say, well, no, I don't think so. Well, let me say something. They are. The reason is earthly things only last as long as you last. This physical body, we are going to die. There's nothing that I can do to prevent one day from me dying unless the Lord comes and the rapture takes place. But I can assure you that heaven is a place that you will never die again. You will live forever. And so it establishes to us that we can either put our treasures and place all of our time and be consumed by this world, or we can put our treasures in heavenly things, be consumed by serving God, being faithful to God. And let me say this, you never leave those heavenly things behind. Everything you do for the glory of God goes ahead of you. But the things you do for you in this world, you leave behind. But what you do for God goes ahead. And so when we realize this important truth, it allows us to begin to look and to search at some of the parables and begin to understand that there are basically, and I want you to turn in your Bibles to Matthew chapter 13. In Matthew chapter 13, this is a part of what they call and attribute as the kingdom parables. It allows us to understand and to know that there is some truths that God is wanting to convey to us, some very important fundamental truths that will help change your lives. And I want to look at basically 4 truths to finding treasure. 4 truths. Very simple. 4 truths to finding treasure. Now here's what it says in Matthew chapter 13, beginning with verse 44. It says again. So you can go back up and you can see what you all have already learned. But it says again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto treasure hid in a field. So we can get the picture. The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hid in the field. Now that treasure doesn't get up out of the field and come to you. So here's what it says. Hid in the field. And it says, is like unto a merchant man seeking goodly pearls. I just skipped. Let me go back up. Verse 44. Is like unto the treasure hid in the field, the which when a man hath found, he hideth, and for joy thereof goeth and selleth all that he hath, and buyeth that field. Now understand what's happening here. There is a treasure out here. There is a treasure that you can find. Everyone can find this treasure. Let's go on to verse 45. Again, so it's 2 parables, but it's basically the same thing. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a merchant man seeking goodly pearls, who when he had found one pearl of great price, he went and he sold all that he had and he bought it. So we begin to see in this, there is a parable of treasure hunters, treasure seekers. So there are 4 things that I want to share with you in regards to finding treasure. Number 1, finding treasure involves you searching for it. Amen? It doesn't just come into your eyes and say, oh, here's the treasure. This is treasure. I'm for you. You need to get me. But what it does is it involves an individual taking the time to go out and to begin to search. It reveals that there is something greater out there. This passage, there's something greater out there in life, and it's your responsibility to find it. You say, well, no, it's God's responsibility to make me find it. Do you understand that God has done everything that He needs to in order for you to find the treasure? And what we need to begin to do is start searching, and you must search. Now here's the thing. I can't search for you. I can give you the map. I can put the X on the map and say, this is how you find the hidden treasure. This is how you will find what you're searching for in life. But until you're willing to search yourself, you're not going to... Well, let's go on to the next thing. So in the area of it involves searching, the second thing that it does is it involves individuals finding. You have to find it. Now, looking at the map, it makes it revealed to you, but in order to find it, you have to take and search. But when you find it, it's like the light's gone off. And I can see the truth of God's Word. And we began to find what we've been longing for. And many individuals have been longing in this lifetime, and they have never found what they're searching for. You see them. They're in our families. They try this. And lo and behold, that doesn't bring what they're needing in their life. And they search for a short period of time, and then they give up. And they say, well, maybe it's in that. And they'll search in that area of their life, and they long for it. And then they give up, and then they say, well, maybe it's in this. And they even come to the point of getting into the area of being religious, and they think that religion is going to somehow bring the joy and the peace that they're missing. The truth is, that's not what brings joy and peace. What brings joy and peace is when we find Jesus Christ. So we search. Searching takes place, finding. And let me say this, is you don't need to stop until you actually find it. Don't stop. Maybe you haven't found the peace or found what the purpose of life is yet. Don't stop searching until you find it. When you find it, it takes us to the next aspect in the area of what we see here, these four truths that are found here in Matthew chapter 13, verse 44 through 46. It says that basically we need to be willing to make the sacrifice. Sacrifice. Well, what kind of sacrifice? Well, what we see here is in this illustration, the sacrifice of both of these were willing to do something. The Bible says that these individuals, when they had found it, he hideth it, verse 44, and for joy therefore goeth and selleth all that he hath. Got the picture? All that he hath. He sells all that he hath. You got the picture? All that he hath. What did he sell? All that he hath. Well, let's go on down and begin to see what it says here. It says in verse 45, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a merchant, man seeking goodly pearls, who hath found one pearl of great price, and he went and sold all that he had. Why did he sell it all? Because he was willing to make the sacrifice for something that was of greater value. To find treasure, you've got to be willing to make the sacrifice. And it may require you as an individual to make the sacrifice of selling all that you have, to just turn your life upside down in order to find that greater thing, to obtain the greater thing. And that brings us into number 4 in the area of things, the truths to finding treasure, is the area of ownership. Now, people, let me say something. Searching, finding, making sacrifice does not necessarily mean that you're claiming ownership. Because you can actually search and find the treasure, and you look at it and you say, well, you know, that's not really the treasure I wanted. I didn't want gold. I wanted actually cash. So you walk away from the gold. You understand the picture here? You have to claim ownership. You have to acquire it. This is what they're doing. You see in these verses, in this parable, that they're coming to the point of saying, listen, I'm not just an individual who is out here searching for treasure, but I'm an individual who's willing to make the sacrifice when I find the treasure, and I'm an individual who wants to claim ownership of that treasure. You see, that's what it is in Christianity. We claim ownership. We claim the blood of Jesus Christ, the blood that cleanses us of all unrighteousness. Not our own works, not our own goodness, not our own talents and abilities, but what God has done for us. Ownership. I own him because he owns me. We sometimes talk about dual ownership. Well, ultimately, he's purchased me, and I just surrender to him. That's the sacrifice that we make. We acknowledge the sense of ownership. And that's what this kingdom parable is presenting to us, that there is something so precious in this world that somehow we just overlook it, and we need to start searching it, and we need to seek until we find. And when we find it, we need to claim in the area of willingness to make the sacrifice in order to obtain and to own it ourselves. I own the blood of Jesus Christ. I am guilty for his death. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you realize it is the blood of Jesus Christ that died and was spilled for me, that rids me of the consequences of sin? Someone once said, if I was the only person who was a sinner, Jesus would have died for me. That's ownership. That's claiming the ownership of what we begin to see. So let me share with you a couple things I noticed in these passages of these parables right here. There's some sad things about these parables. And let me share with you just basically 3 things. There's more, but we can jot down these three things. The sad thing about these parables is it gives us the implication that first, everyone is not seeking the treasures. Now let's stop and think for a moment. When we find Jesus Christ, we found a treasure, amen? But everybody that lives around us is not seeking after Christ. They're seeking after the earthly things. That's where their heart is. They are seeking after the things that bring temporary joy, and they're overlooking the one thing that brings permanent joy. And so we realize the sad thing that this implies, that everybody is not searching for that hidden treasure. And they overlook it, and they bypass it. And somehow they haven't found it, and it just begins to create in them this anxiety that causes them to just get more distorted and disoriented, and they just give up. So everyone's not seeking the treasure. This is a parable where an individual, that's us, few individuals, the Bible talks about the way into heaven, that it is just a narrow way. It's not a broad way. It's a narrow way. Few find it. Well, that's the concept. Everyone is not seeking true treasures. You see, true treasures is not what we obtain here on the earth, but what we obtain that lasts for all eternity. Second thing, the sadness of this parable is we can acknowledge and make the assumption that people are not willing to make the sacrifice. Many will get to the doors of the kingdom of heaven. They will see what Christ has done in the lives of other individuals, and yet they will turn and walk away because they are not willing to make the sacrifice. Well, I've got to give up. And they're not willing to do that. People, let me say this. There is nothing in this world worth holding on to but Christ is what we need to hold on to. And when we look at what is being said here, we've got to be willing to make the sacrifice. What am I giving up in this world? I am giving up only temporary things to obtain something that is permanent. And so people need to be willing to make the sacrifice, and many are not willing to make the sacrifice. They want to live in the ways of the world and think that they're okay with Jesus Christ. Make the sacrifice. Well, I just love my sinful life. Well, they don't say it that way, but that's what they're meaning. I'm not willing to pay the price, whatever it costs. I'm not willing to, make that sacrifice. And the third sad thing in regards to this parable is that individuals somehow are holding on to things and holding on to things that keep us from greater things. Now, people, let me say this. When we make the sacrifice, when you come to the point of saying, I'm ready to surrender it all, you come to the realization that there is something greater out there. And I'm going to say it like this. You don't look at it like a sacrifice because you want to obtain something greater. And to obtain something greater is really not a sacrifice. If I was to here today say to you, if every one of you would take your house and just come here today, all your personal possessions, and come here today and give them to God, that God is going to give you a mansion greater with all the things you'll ever need, would it really be a sacrifice to give up your shack for the mansion? But we tend to hold on to things, and it keeps us from the greater things. In this parable, we see that if the individual would have said, oh, that's a value, that's worth so much, I can't afford it. I got to hold on to what I've got. You see, they was willing to give it all in order to obtain the greater. And that brings us into the concept of what we as individuals should do. What we as people of this culture, of this generation, need to begin to do. Number one is we need to realize that there is more to life than you. It's not just you live and die. The concept is you live, you die, you live again. There is no end to life. Now, there is a change of where you will spend eternity. And the concept of eternity is a forever thing. And so we realize there is more to life than you. There is more to what is out here than me being so inner-focused upon me and my needs, and I'm neglecting what God has wanted me to do. So there is something greater than what I am all about. God has created us for His glory and for His kingdom. So realize there is more to life than you. Find a way to begin to realize God has created me, and how God has created me. I'm going to begin to serve God, and I'm going to begin to live for God. And so this is what we as individuals should do. We should realize there's more to life than me. It's not about me. It's about Him. Secondly, you need to make sure you find the right treasure. Individuals who find great wealth in this world, treasure seekers. One of the articles I read, and I really didn't understand it fully, but I read that a lot of individuals, depending on what country you lived in, did you know this? Maybe you didn't. But depending on what country you lived in, when you find hidden treasure, it may not be yours. The hidden treasure that you find may totally belong to the government. You say, well, yeah, I know I got to pay taxes. No, some of the areas, it was the fact that if you found it, finders, keepers, losers, weepers, that don't work. The concept is if you find that hidden treasure, you lost it because it would become a part of that nation and so forth. And so we began to realize, so make sure you find the right treasure. Find what you're searching for. Find what you're looking for. Find the most valuable thing and do everything in your power to obtain it. Make the sacrifice that's needed to be made. Make sure you find the right treasure. So if we go from our opening text in Matthew chapter 6, we would begin to see that our treasure ought not be in earthly things, but in heavenly things. Make sure you find the right treasure. Number 3 is the area of what we should do is you need as an individual, you need to make sure you claim ownership. You've got to claim ownership. You can win great treasures. You can find great treasures and you can leave them in the ground. And say, well, I know where that treasure's at. It's there. I'm going to keep it there until one day. The truth is you need to claim ownership right now. Because there's coming a day when you won't be able to claim ownership. Claim ownership. A treasure seeker. Somebody who is seeking treasures. As in the case here, the kingdom of heaven is likened to that individual searching and finding. An individual who seeks and finds something of great value, and they have made claim to it. That's the concept. You got to make claim to it. You got to buy the land. You got to get the documents approved in order for you to obtain ownership. And when that happens, the individuals rejoice and they want others to rejoice with them. And when a person finally finds out just how much God loves them and all that God has done for them and what Jesus Christ did for them, then and only then are they willing to let go of all they have in order to obtain a greater thing. I'm free because of Jesus Christ. And I claim ownership of being a child of His. There is nothing worth keeping in this world. Because this world, people listen, this world is timing down. And only the things of God will last forever in the joy and the presence of the one who created all things. I want you to think for just a moment. And if you're taking notes, you can jot this down or think within your mind. What is your one thing that you're unwilling to let go of that is keeping you from something greater? You see, the treasure is here. And you've got to make a decision. And there's one thing, maybe many things, but there's one thing that's keeping you from obtaining the greater treasure. What is the one thing that's in your life that is hindering you and keeping you from something greater? Now, let me say this. Don't die in search of the wrong treasure. Don't die in search of the wrong treasure. You see, discovering God's love is the greatest discovery. Amen? Discovering God's love is the greatest discovery. Maybe you haven't found it yet. You don't know what I'm talking about. But you're seeing and understanding that there's something missing in your life. Are you willing to make the sacrifice to obtain a greater thing? God is greater. And we need to seek Him and follow Him. Let's pray.